The Indianapolis Colts' off-season has officially begun with the conclusion of Super Bowl 60. So this brings massive questions for the franchise to answer with a critical year ahead. What are the most pressing and important questions? And which questions do you, the fans, think need answered the most? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, as always, presented by the wonderful folks at Indianapolis Colts on SI. My name is Drake Wally, co-deputy editor for the channel, co-host of the show. And once again, here he is, Sean Ackerman. Sean, how are you doing, man? How was your weekend, and what'd you think of Super Bowl 60? We'll just go ahead and jump right into it.
Doing good. I mean, Super Bowl was okay. I thought it would be a little bit better of a game, but I mean, they really got after Drake May, and once they got after him, it was downhill from there for the Patriots.
Yeah, and what was really interesting to me is I don't know about you, but you kind of had a feeling. I had a feeling that like this would be a little too much for Drake May. But then again, something creeped into the back of my mind, and that's that 44-year-old couch sitting Phillip Rivers jumped back into the NFL and damn near defeated that football team. But yeah, good game. We'll just kind of briefly break that down. So I guess, Sean, the one question I'll ask you about the Super Bowl is, do you think that Sam Darnold, the way he was able to show the entire league that situation matters, and then the way that Daniel Jones was playing the first 10 games of the season, and the Colts were on track to push for a Super Bowl, do you think that the Colts have at least hit some kind of an idea on how to get there? If they just stay healthy, they might be able to do it, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think what you really saw is, as Shane Steichen always says, is complementary football. The defense was getting off the field and giving Sam Darnold the opportunity to run the offense. And really, I mean, as we saw, Kenneth Walker won MVP.
Yep.
So, and that's the way that the Colts ran their offense through Jonathan Taylor. He was the guy getting 7 to 8 yards per carry in that first half of the season. I do think that having someone who can command the line of scrimmage was very important for Shane Steichen, and that paid off in the first 10 games of the season. Again, I think if they stay healthy, there's no reason they shouldn't be able to compete at least for an AFC championship,
Yeah. And I mean, hey, the blueprint's there. The blueprint's there, and you've seen it with Baker. You've seen it with Darnold. You did see it with Jones. There's been other quarterbacks in the past where they find new footing. They find the right offense, the right fit, the right talent around them. But I don't know if we'll ever see, a guy that was basically written off as a draft bust, a backup quarterback, and try to be a starter in places like Carolina and just fizzled out, died off, and then goes out there and wins a Super Bowl. But guys, we got some people in the chat here. Truett Trussler, longtime viewer, longtime fan, longtime supporter of this channel. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And then, Truett, your questions, we'll get to those. And then, of course, we have Teresa Willis-Johnson. Happy Monday to you as well from both of us here. We're excited to kind of get into it with the season officially over. That means that all systems go for the Indianapolis Colts. They need to start looking to 2026. So for this episode, it's very straightforward. These are the 5 questions that the Colts must answer for the 2026 season, whether that being free agency, draft, off-season, training camp, or the actual season really leading up to it. These things need to be addressed. Now, Sean, before we even jump into it, I want to go to Carly Ursay-Gordon's press conference. She said, in short, paraphrasing, the pressure's never been higher. The demand to succeed has never been higher. Of course, this is something we've heard over and over, but there's really no other way she could put it. How important do you think that this offseason is really over the Colts' tenure with Chris Ballard? Because it seems like it could indeed be the most important that we've seen in recent memory, because there's a lot on the line for this one.
Yeah, and last year we saw him make a ton of more moves in free agency than he usually does, at least with Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward. And I think he's going to have to continue to make those free agency signings, at least on the defensive line. I don't see considering his draft history of defensive ends, I think this offseason finding a veteran defensive lineman who's proven, someone that can get to the quarterback consistently and win those one-on-ones consistently, that's what the Colts need to really take their game to the next level.
Yeah, and with the pressure being so high, it's completely look, before we jump into it here, I mean, people need to kind of, and I've had to do this before because I've never seen a GM have a quarterback that's a franchise generational talent call it quits. But, Chris Ballard didn't have these injuries happen. And I think Carly Gordon went into the season thinking her and her sisters went into it thinking, look, if injuries destroy this season, we're going to reevaluate things. We're going to kind of give some grace. And of course, that's what ultimately happened. So I think that's why they aren't canned. Had they done this and lost 7 games being mostly healthy with Daniel Jones intact, that would have you probably would have a new head coach and a new GM search going on. So, but without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. So this first one is very simple, but it could be the most important to the Indianapolis Colts' success, and that is can Daniel Jones get back to form in 2026? Now, we kind of alluded to this on our last episode, Sean, but Daniel Jones, and you put out a brilliant factoid, is that he really has kind of an injury history similar to Richardson. It's been over a longer period of time. And he went into this season with a lot of games missed. In fact, I'm not even sure if he's played a whole season in his entire career. Then you have a fractured leg. Then you tear your Achilles, and we saw how bad that can be for Samson Ebukam. You lead the team in sacks, you rip your Achilles, you're out all of 24, you come back, and he just, whether it be age or whatever, that Achilles injury really slowed him down. So just right out of the gate, tell me a little bit about your confidence in rehabbing this Achilles injury because, dude, it might even leak into the regular season, God forbid.
Yeah, I mean, when you tear it that late in the season, really anything's on the table. If there's any setbacks in his recovery, I mean, that will undoubtedly at least go into training camp, I would imagine, because, I mean, Achilles, yeah, medicine's getting better, but, to get back to true 100% where you can still have that somewhat of the same mobility that you used to have, I think that's what's most important really is keeping that mobility. It's a big risk, but at the same time, I forget some writer made this point that the Falcons paid Kirk Cousins over $40 million a year after he tore his Achilles. And that's kind of scary if you're the Colts because you're looking at that, you're looking at how Kirk Cousins played, and it's like, wow, can we really afford that? Can we afford to have a quarterback who might have a huge drop-off in play and sign him to a big contract? So I don't know. It's going to be tough for him to bounce back. Do you think he does it?
I mean, so that's my personal opinion is the dude is as tough as hell. I mean, he's going to play. And, I think that these are just these injuries are so unbelievably tricky when you're talking about the Achilles and like all of the pressure that Jones has to put on for certain throws and his mobility, and you have to move out of nowhere, explosiveness with your feet. I think initially he's going to be slowed. I don't think he's just going to go out there and be one hell of a quarterback. I mean, you're going to have to kind of morph the offense to fit the timeline of his recovery, but I definitely think it's possible. But while we're on the topic, let's just say, because Daniel Jones is getting a new deal. I mean, the Colts are literally trying to do everything possible to work out a multi-year deal per Tom Pelissero. What do you think that contract's going to look like? I want the years, and I want the overall amount because, I mean, people forget that, I mean, the highest paid quarterback gets $60 million a year. That's Dak Prescott as far as annual. And like middle of the road quarterback contracts, like not even a big contract, is like $35 million a year. We're talking Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield metrics.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's like there's a big drop off. It's like after Sam Darnold and Baker, who are both making like 35 million a year. The next big highest contract is like Justin Fields, who's making 20 million a year. So realistically, Daniel Jones is getting at least $30 million a year. I could see it being, it's not going to be a fully guaranteed contract. I think that's out the door because with the injuries, maybe before the injuries, I think that might have been possible. But I think we're going to see a deal, something like maybe 3 years for $110 million. I think that would be a realistic deal, and I think you have it. You would want to structure it similarly to what Chris Ballard did for Michael Pittman a couple years back, where if it gets to that third year, you can cut him and maybe save a little bit of money, take a bit of a dead cap hit, but maybe make it not all guaranteed so that if he's not playing well by that point, 2 years later, you can move on.
Yeah, I think that I'm actually right in the same boat as you. I also, dude, I would not be surprised if the Colts, depending on the market for other teams that are looking for a quarterback, because they're going to have a little bit of competition. I mean, they are, because Daniel Jones looked great, and I think that it was one of the reasons that the Vikings cut ties with their GM is because you see Darnold, they didn't retain him. He went and won a Super Bowl. You see Jones, they didn't keep him, and he went and had a breakout season with the Colts despite what happened. And then you're left with J.J. McCarthy, who became the meme of the year on X. So I think that there's going to be competition, but I'd say 3 years, 115, 120. It wouldn't be surprising to me if they give that guy $40 million a year with some guaranteed. But like you said, they'll structure that contract so that at the end of it, if they really feel uncomfortable, they can just cut ties with him and save a bundle. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I think that there's promise that Jones will recover, but I mean, it's a risk. It's a huge risk. But this next one is a two-parter, and it actually is something similar to what the whole chat's talking about it, and that is, will Michael Pittman Jr. and Zaire Franklin still be on the team? So we'll actually start with the lesser of these, the less talked about, depending on what attitude you're talking about from Colts fans. So Zaire, he's been a staple of the team for years. He's been a leader on defense. He's good when it comes to being a field general. And he, like we've talked about, Sean, he's a stat box sheet stuffer. But, I mean, he was close to the worst coverage linebacker in the NFL last year. He missed almost the most tackles of any linebacker. And I know he's going for a lot, but he's whiffing on tackles. He was a liability, actually, on defense quite a bit, and he got outplayed by Jermaine Pratt, who got signed on a $1.5 million deal. So right off the right out of the rip here, what did you make of Zaire Franklin's 2025 season, and do you have confidence that if he stays on the team, he can improve?
It's a good question. The improvement specifically is a really good question, because in 2025, I mean, we saw him in a new system again, right?
That's fair.
And this time, he had good success under Gus Bradley. At the same time, his 2024 was good, but he didn't take that next step in 2025. He went backwards, if we're being honest. And I think the system had some to do with it. At the same time, he's struggled in coverage for a while now, and missed tackles have been an issue for a couple years in a row now. I said this, I believe, last episode, but him and EJ Speed were missing tackles all over the field in 2024. And this season, you didn't really see a lot of improvement in that area. In 2026, I think the Colts will keep him, if I had to guess, solely because of his veteran leadership, and they don't really have a lot of depth at linebacker. His contract isn't absolutely massive. So I think they'll keep him just because you're probably not going to find another linebacker who he has his moments. Like, I would say in some big moments this year, like against the Falcons, he came up big with a sack on Penix in Germany. And really, I think Franklin could have more success in another year with Anarumo, but it'd be a lot to bank on just for him to take that next step. So what do you think?
I mean, the thing is, if they were to cut him next season, they save like 9, I can't remember the exact metric, but it's like 9. In fact, I might actually have it in my article here. Let me see. Yeah, so if they were to cut him next season, they would literally save $9,005,000. If they cut him this season, you've got $5.755 million that you're saving. If he had I will say, Sean, man, if he had a bigger savings, we're talking like $15 million, I wouldn't rule it out at all. I really wouldn't, because there's not efficiency. There's numbers, but there's not efficiency. Like you said, though, I mean, Jermaine Pratt is a free agent. Who knows if they're going to re-sign him? Jalen Carlies, I know he was hurt, but when he came back, he didn't even see the field. You've got Austin Ajike, who's kind of like a fringe player that you could put on the field, but not that efficient either. Shegun Alubi's a special teamer. You have Franklin. That's what you have. And Hunter Wohler maybe could do it, but he's coming off of a Liz Frank injury that ruined his season. So it's you basically have no choice. You don't really have a choice, and you can't bank on a free agent necessarily. I personally like Devin Bush, but you can't just remove Franklin, have to sign a veteran linebacker, turn around. If you draft one in the second round, you can't just be okay, we are comfortable with you being a starter, because the Colts are in win now mode. They need to win now. I'm right there with you, though. I think he's going to be back. I just hope that he plays better, because if he plays like he did last year, this upcoming season, I think the Colts would be happy to save $9 million, especially if one of their linebackers they draft, takes a big step or looks good in his rookie season. But this other one it tugs on the heartstrings for a lot of Colts fans, and I've seen Colts fans on X blasting this man, and it's disgusting. It's pathetic. But Michael Pittman Jr. All right, now this one is a lot more ambiguous. They can replace Pittman. He is a good player, and he's a hell of a locker room guy. But the guy really fell off. And you could say it's quarterback play. Alec Pierce sure looked fine, with Leonard, Rivers, and an injured Jones throwing him the ball. Pittman did not. Once they came back from the bye, he was a shell. $24 million you save, $29 million total, but the $5 million removes it and gets it to 24. That is so much money. What are your thoughts on Pittman's 2025 season? It wasn't what you typically see. And what do you think? Do you think that they're going to say, hey, I think we've got all the tools here and we can replace you?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think one interesting thing to factor in is that the Colts did trade away Adonai Mitchell, and I think if you're doing that, that was a second round pick similar to Pittman, and Mitchell had a couple of good games, really good games with the Jets, and that was with some below average quarterbacks.
You can say it. Justin Fields can't throw the ball.
Yeah.
You just say it.
Yeah. Listen, I think Pittman, it's tough to say that the Colts should just move on from him after one pretty rough year, because he's done a lot for this team and he's been a pretty solid player over the course of his career. At the same time, I do think he is a replaceable player in the way that he doesn't exactly excel at any one thing. He's pretty good at various things. I think when we saw him with Frank Reich, sometimes he was more used downfield. It looks like now Steichen prefers to use him on slants, get him the ball, get him running after the catch. And in the red zone, Pittman was really good in the red zone this season.
Yep.
I think that he had I believe 6 or 7 straight games with a touchdown. Pretty good. And that's hard to replace in your offense. So I believe that if Pittman is on the team, I think they may have some way to maybe restructure his contract, maybe push some of the money forward to another year, or turn it maybe this could be the same way what they did with Braden Smith this offseason, right? They lowered Braden Smith's pay because they weren't sure he was going to be as good as he was when he originally signed his extension. And so I think if Pittman is willing to do that, to stay with the Colts, stay with Jones, Pierce, and all of his guys for another year, I think he could be on the team.
Yeah, and I look, you're not going to find – I mean, he even said that he loves Indianapolis. He understands the uncertainty of this league. He understands it's a business before it's a relationship. But to find a wide receiver that is willing to embrace pretty much any role, he's gone out there. Here, get ready for this. Here's who Pittman has caught passes from, Sean, since being drafted. Phillip Rivers on 2 separate occasions. Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Sam Ellinger, Nick Foles, Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, Daniel Jones, Riley Leonard. This man has had 10 quarterbacks in 6 seasons. That's almost 2 every year. And he has been basically the number 1 receiver until, I guess, which I still consider him the number 1 receiver because Pierce did only catch 47 passes. Pierce is not going to be a guy that's going to get you volume catches. But it's a what have you done? Andrew Moore always used to say this, and it's so accurate. It's a what have you done for me lately league. It's not what did you do, it's what have you done. And those last 7 games were absolutely brutal. I mean, he couldn't do anything, it seemed. But, you know, Sean, this dude blocks. He's a hell of a leader. He's a hell of a locker room guy. He's a great mentor for future receivers that come onto the Colts. And also, you could replace him, but the wide receiver market is dry as a desert. I mean, if you get rid of Pittman, outside of Mike Evans, who ain't going anywhere, you know, George Pickens ain't going anywhere. Like, you have guys like Christian Kirk. You know, you're not going to do that. So I think that it's almost a lock that he stays. But if they really want to make some big splashes alongside Jones and Pierce's re-signings and they want to do it on defense, I think the best way to do that would be to cut Pittman. But I don't know, man. I'm right there with you. I personally think he stays. But again, this league is brutal. I mean, it's unforgiving. It's terrible. It's what we cover. We love our football. We do this professionally, but I mean, you can't deny it is a brutal league. Patrick Rye, the CFO of the channel, Chief Financial Officer. You know, the lights in my house could be on because of this man's super chats. But Patrick, thank you so much for joining here. Let me see here. It's more likely that Chris, I love my guys Ballard, extends these clowns to reduce their cap hit than outright cutting them. Get ready for it. Womp womp. Pittman, I think you could see an extension. And I want your thoughts on this, Sean. You could see an extension for Pittman because then you spread out that cap hit. Like you can spread it out over a couple more years. Do you think that it's more likely that they say, look, it's $24 million though, man, and they get an additional edge or something? Or do you think that scenario right there where they extend him and keep him on the team while saving some future cap, actually goes down from Ballard?
Yeah. And I saw some people talking about this with other players as well. I believe Quentin Nelson is entering some of the final year on his contract. Yep. So they could do the same thing, extend him, spread the cap. I believe that Chris Ballard would do something like this. He's done it before. And realistically, if he really wants to keep him in, which Ballard loves his guys,
he does. He literally does.
I could 1,000% see this happening. I don't know. The issue is if he signs an extension, you know, how much would it be? Because he's already getting paid about $23 million a year. Are they going to give him money like that again? I don't see it. I would see like maybe 15 million, so that then they could maybe take 5 to 10 million from this year's cap hit and move it down the line. And if it is an extension, how many years do you want to extend them for? Is the other question. Would it just be 1, 2 years? Probably. But again, Pittman, I mean, by that point, this will be his 7th season. If you extend him for 2 more years, that's 9 seasons. Then he's entering the back end of his career. So I could see Ballard extending him. That would be a lot, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, he does so many things that are on the field that are critical to a team winning. right? Like he does so freaking much, and it's more than being a receiver. One of my favorite things about Pittman is that the dude blocks. He gets down that field like Ashton Doolin, like Alec Pierce, like Pittman. Colts really are blessed with receivers willing to throw some big blocks. So he's another one of them. Patrick, I can't put your comment on YouTube because it's referring to a terrorist organization. But so you've been gone for a while. So Sean Ackerman is he's a co-deputy editor with me on Indianapolis Colts on SI for Sports Illustrated, and I was hosting the show for a while with after Noah Jaber left. And Sean stepped up. He wanted to give it a shot. He had his first episode not long ago, and he was freaking awesome. So he is now the official co-host of the show. And something you'll learn about Sean is that Patrick is a true comedian. I mean, he will make you laugh very hard, and half of his comments can be put on YouTube. Half of them can't. And that's the beauty of Patrick Rice. So, but yeah, I absolutely think that Michael Pittman is valuable. I think that he's going to stay on the team. I personally cannot imagine the Colts not keeping him. But again, this league is brutal and anything can happen. So this next one here, this is one of my favorites, actually. He's one of my favorite players on the Colts. I bought his jersey for a reason. The Colts need desperate help. So much help on the defensive edge position. But this one guy here, people have said, well, he didn't have an incredible rookie season. Well, he didn't look like a superstar in year 2. But will Leatu Latu have a breakout season in year 3? He led the team in sacks. And the team, I got to pull this up real quick. So this is something to note, is that the Colts actually had a grand total, Sean. They had a total of, I believe, let me see here. Sorry, I got to pull it up. Yeah, so they had 39 total sacks as a team. But Leatu, that's 15th in the NFL, tied for 15th. Latu had 8.5 of those, and after him on the line, factor in DeForest Buckner did miss 7 games. Adetomo Adebawore, 4 sacks. DeForest Buckner, 4 sacks. Kwity Paye, 4 sacks. Neville Gallimore, 3.5. Tyquan Lewis, 3. Samson Ebukam, 2. Chris Wormley, 1. Grover Stewart, 0.5. Leatu Latu had no help. He was getting double-teamed at times. There were literal plays where, if you look at the tape, Sean, it would be Latu against the tight end, gets chipped, and then what's that? Or against a tight end gets chipped, and then there's a tackle, and then there's a running back behind the tackle. Like, I mean, there were offensive schemes that had 3 blockers, or they had 3 players involved with slowing him down, and yet the next closest guy was Adetomo Adebawore, dude. So what did you think of Latu's season? He had 8.5 sacks. He was a pressure machine. His Pro Football Focus grades are absolutely pristine. They're off the charts. He was involved a lot, and he had 3 interceptions. I personally thought this scheme brought out the best in him. I think in year 2 with Lou Anarumo, you give some juice to that defensive edge position. Let Paye, Ebukam, and Lewis all walk in free agency. You retool that edge rush. I mean, he could have a 10-plus sack season, and honestly, he may be able to push for a Pro Bowl.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I believe in Latu still, and I don't think there's any reason that people shouldn't. I know that, yeah, exactly. The Darth Raider, you are completely right. Latu has no help, especially on the edge. I mean, that's why they can use a tight end to chip, and then there's tackle, and then there's a running back, because they know that the other players on the line are not winning their one-on-ones. And so at the end of the day, if you can stop the pocket from collapsing on Latu's side, quarterback's going to have all day. And so I think what we saw with Lou Anarumo in Cincinnati is he brought in a veteran defensive end named Trey Hendrickson. And I think he needs to bring him in again to Indianapolis and fix the defensive line, because Trey Hendrickson and Latu on the same line, I mean, then the Colts would be really cooking with gas. Now that's, again, with the possible re-signing of Pierce and Jones, the contract situation gets messy. But at the end of the day, if Ballard is committed to winning, then he has to make a move like getting Hendrickson to take double teams away. I completely agree, because Latu has the speed off the edge to beat a lot of offensive tackles in this league, and I think we saw that time and time again. I don't know. I think Latu could be the guy who gets double-digit sacks for the Colts next year.
Yeah, I mean, Latu's going to break out if they get Anarumo, Trey Hendrickson to take double teams away and let him cook one-on-one. Look, something to note about Trey Hendrickson is he did deal with more injuries. I mean, he dealt with some significant injuries. But the thing, like everyone, God, and this is one of my least favorite things, Sean, is people when they discuss and when they evaluate edge rushers, it's always about those sacks. And what you really should evaluate an edge rusher on, of course, it's nice to have sacks, but there's two things I want to use as an example here. Number one, Hendrickson only had 4, but he hardly played. But here's the deal. The guy had, in just that short time, he had 23 pressures. He was an elite pass rusher, still was constantly beating competition. His run defense could improve, but that's not really his bread and butter. But, I mean, that's a guy that with his old coordinator, which you saw, he wasn't as efficient without Anarumo this time. He had 4 straight Pro Bowls, dude. I mean, he had 4 straight Pro Bowls, had 35 freaking sacks in 2023 and 2024 combined, 17 and a half each season, led the NFL once. I think he had 2 All-Pros under Lou Anarumo. And I'm sorry, Cincinnati did not have a whole lot of guys helping Trey Hendrickson. So, I mean, now you put him with guys like Buckner, guys like Stewart, guys like Latu. You get him back with Anarumo. I mean, that could be worth the coin. He's going to command some money, but I mean, that could be worth the coin. One more thing here. I have to bring this up just because I have to selfishly brag. Tony Pelletieri says, bring on Kalavon, I think it's Chasen. I just wrote, Tony, a piece on 3 free agents who could be excellent fits for a needy Colts defense, and my defensive end is Kalavon Chasen. I think that would be a good fit. Wouldn't cost as much as Trey Hendrickson. But, Sean, so as far as Latu goes, do you think that he could potentially just this year alone, just right off the cuff, we don't know what they're going to do for their defensive line position yet. Do you think that he could become the first Colts player since Justin Houston, who wasn't even drafted by Ballard, in 2019 to get 10-plus sacks?
Yeah. Again, I think it depends on – I think it partially does depend on just free agency, but it it's hard to ignore that. But at the same time, Latu has shown that he can be a capable player, and in his rookie season, he only played about half the defensive snaps.
Yeah,
that was under Gus Bradley, and he had about 4 sacks. And it's okay for your rookie season. At the same time, when Ballard drafted this guy, he said we got the best pass rusher in the draft. And has that actually panned out? Not yet. We're not going to say that it's not possible, but when you have the pick of the litter, you get any defender in the draft that you want, and you choose this guy, you would hope that he is someone who can get double-digit sacks, because it's asking for a decent amount, but it's not asking out of a lot for a guy who was the first defensive player in his draft.
Yeah, and just real quick, first off, the other example I wanted to use on people that want to sack, like watch for number of sacks and judge a player based off of that. Look no further than in 2022, Yannick Ngakoue. Okay, he gets signed, 9.5 sacks. You're like, whoa, holy cow, that's awesome. You watch the tape though, couldn't win his one-on-ones to save his life. He barely defended the run. I mean, he sucked. He sucked hard against the run. Couldn't do anything against opposing tackles to stop running backs. Didn't post and move. Couldn't do any of that. You look at DeForest Buckner on tape when he played. DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart would push the quarterbacks to funnel out, and right there would be Yannick Ngakoue to just clean up the sacks. So that showed, wow, he's a fantastic edge rusher, but when you look deeper than the sack numbers, he was terrible. So the Colts didn't keep him. But you look at Latu. Pro Football Focus, I know that it's not the Bible, I say that every time. 84.1 overall grade, 10th out of 115 eligible defensive ends. 77.0 pass rushing grade, 22nd. Run defense grade, which he was criticized for not being able to do, 18th. Also, he had 61 pressures, good enough for 15th, and he had 41 QB hurries. I mean, he was good. Latu was good. He didn't have any help. I think me and Sean are both in agreement here that if they're able to get just more along that defensive line, they also have to look for a new defensive line coach. Charlie Partridge is going to the Fighting Irish, which he should. He's a college guy. He's not built for the NFL. I really think that you could see Latu just absolutely ball out this year. This is one that Sean actually came up with, and I totally whiffed on it. And it's not even, I mean, if you've got a name in mind, awesome. But this is more of just position. Where do they go without a first rounder? And that is, what should the Colts do with their second round pick? Now, team needs defensive edge, starter. You need a starting defensive edge, potentially a starting level so they can develop defensive tackle. Linebacker, you probably could use, now we're going to like maybe some depth to develop for long-term. Safety, all right, you could probably use more along the offensive line. Who knows how long, it's going to be before Quentin Nelson does show regression. I know that he's a future Hall of Famer, but regression in every other sport, Sean, it's like this. In the NFL, it's a cliff. It's just 1 year you're top, next year you suck. So we'll just start with this. What position do you think the Colts are going to use that second round pick on?
Yeah.
It's tough. There's a lot.
It is tough. And again, I keep mentioning this, but Ballard's history of drafting edge rushers is just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awful. And can you afford to use another second round pick on that? I just don't think you can. I think that's why you have to go with a veteran there. And that's why I think with the second round pick, the linebacker depth in this draft class is really, really nice.
It is.
I think there's guys, Kyle Lewis put on a show at the Senior Bowl. He is really good in coverage. He's a little bit more of a hybrid safety linebacker, but I think that's almost the type of player that the Colts defense could use, is someone who gets to the ball, makes a play on the ball, but can deliver those big hits too. And I know Jake Golday out of Cincinnati. He's a big man, and he's a nice athlete. He fills in the gaps nicely on film. I think that's another option. I think linebacker is just going to have to be the spot. I wrote a piece earlier about Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. He has a little bit of pass rush skill too. So that could be a guy who could contribute to the defensive line and also be a decent player in coverage. The Colts in Anarumo's system, though, we didn't see a lot of Zaire Franklin or Jermaine Pratt blitzing. We saw a little bit of it, and there were we saw a lot of simulated pressures where they would maybe start on the line, but they usually dropped back into coverage there. And
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I just think linebacker, considering Ballard's history of defensive end, I think linebacker is just going to be a position that has a good, talented player available in the second round, where you don't have to maybe trade up to get him. I think someone will fall into your hands there.
Yeah, and I just saw a comment that I have to address immediately. Teresa, hold on, it's February, Drake. Is it no drinking in February too? This isn't water. I mean, this is basically, I like to call it my petroleum fuel cocktail. I mean, if I took a lighter and I even lit it, this whole house would explode. I'm kidding. But no, it's definitely my patented Moscow Mule. I love that you brought up those linebackers, because I wrote a piece not long ago on 3 draft fits to smooth out their linebacker woes. And there were a couple guys that might be out of the Colts' reach, like Sonny Styles from OSU, like Tarion York from Texas A&M. He could fall to the Colts, but there's one guy that I would just really want them to get, and he literally is right there as far as his draft stock. He might go a little higher now after a great Senior Bowl week and Senior Bowl performance. But man, that's Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. I mean, oh man, he does everything, literally does everything. And I'm pulling up my piece right now. Yeah, so 2024 and 2025, this dude was on fire. He led the NCAA in solo tackles. In 2024 was 77. 63, still led the NCAA with 63. He led the way in forced fumbles in 2025 with 7. And that's playing high-level competition also. He had 90-plus PFF grades in 2025. Overall, run defense, pass coverage. That's a complete football player. So I'm right there with you. I think that if you really want to pack a punch with your defensive edge, honestly, there's no other option than Trey Hendrickson if you really want maximum coverage there. But as far as linebacker, I'm right there with you. I think that I don't really think they can miss. Well, it's the Colts. they might be able to miss. But I'm right there with you. I do think that you're going to see an investment in the linebacker position. Patrick does mention here they might have to reinvest in wide receiver as well if Pittman is gone. But tell me what you think about this statement, Sean. So if they were this could dictate the fact that they keep Pittman, right? It could dictate – I think it could decide that they keep Pittman. If you get rid of Pittman, you have to use that second rounder on a wide receiver. I think you do. You're in a win now mode. You're going to have to use it. Maybe it's Omari Cooper from Indiana. I don't know. But that would take away from a more pressing need like linebacker. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, a wide receiver. I mean, I know Shane Steichen would love to have another weapon to work with. I mean, considering the Colts offense, really, once Adonai Mitchell was traded, it was just Pittman, Pierce, and Downs were really the only receivers getting playing time. Like Ashton Doolin was out there maybe occasionally towards the end of the season once he came back from injury. And Ashton Doolin, he's a great guy. He's a great blocker, plays hard, but he's not exactly the most elite route runner. And
he's just a vertical threat.
Yeah, and at the same time, Ballard has used a lot of his second-round picks on wide receivers. Adonai Mitchell was, Alec Pierce was, Mike Pittman was. So, I mean, second round, he loves to find someone who's fallen there. I think if they don't do it in the second round, I think they would do it within their first 3 picks. So by the 4th round, I think if they haven't taken a receiver, I think they take one, because realistically, that is a position that needs more depth, especially since Josh Downs will now be entering the final year of his rookie contract. So with Pittman and Downs both entering their final years, I think you need another receiver who could get playing time to maybe get some experience.
Yeah, holy cow! We just got an absolutely a whole bunch of comments just fell from the sky. All right, so we're gonna do Patrick's comment here. I had to make sure to read it, Patrick. You have Pierce, Downs, Warren, and you could move Doolin into more playing time. Not to mention that you have JT catching more, and then Coleman Owen, deep cut, hell of a football player. He actually filled in as the returner, and I thought he looked good. And Laquan Treadway. To people watching this, it's Laquan Treadwell. Patrick, I'm pretty sure did that on purpose, but I cannot imagine that they're going to look at their wide receiver room and say that we could go without Pittman. I mean, that second rounder, I don't know. Maybe they go edge, maybe they go D tackle because Buckner is 32, will be 32 when the season starts. Stewart is 32. But I just don't know if you have any other choice than to go linebacker. So I'm right there with you, Sean. This last one is it's a gimme. It's one that I honestly tried to avoid because it's going to dominate. And this guy's name just keeps on dominating Colts headlines. And it's not going to stop until he's off the team. But what will be done with Anthony Richardson Sr.? And this is going to take up the rest of our show. We still have 15 minutes, and we have one subject left. This is it. But I tried to save it for last because I knew it would take up a sizable chunk. I'll let you answer this too. I'll just go ahead and you can start. What has been your overall synopsis of Anthony Richardson's time in Indianapolis, Sean?
To be completely honest, we probably could have figured this out, that something like this was going to happen, where he gets injured, he stays off the field, and he doesn't develop as originally imagined. Richardson, you could keep him another year if you really want. He's on his rookie contract. He's inexpensive. It's not like it's the worst thing in the world to keep him on the roster. It doesn't really, but that's the thing, is it doesn't affect the team that much if he's gone either, because they've already found their guy in Jones. Riley Leonard looks okay. He could be a backup quarterback. He proved that he could be a backup quarterback in this league and maybe step in if absolutely needed. I think Richardson, it's just, gosh, I like watching Richardson play. That might be tough because
watching.
It's just fun. It's just fun to watch him run. The guy's got incredible athleticism, and it's incredibly fun. At the same time, I think you could trade him, but again, if you I don't think he's getting cut. I think it's either traded or he stays on the roster. He's not going to get cut. There'd be no point in realistically doing that. If he gets traded, though, his trade value is not good. So what? He's going to earn the Colts a 5th, 6th round pick. Is that worth it? Is that worth trading him? Maybe. I think that Richardson deserves another opportunity somewhere. I don't think his time in the league is done. I think that there's a chance that he might just demand a trade, even though it might not look good. He needs playing time. That's how he's going to develop. So if he doesn't get it in Indianapolis, I think that he may be on his way out.
Yeah, before we even get into this, we'll address a couple of comments here. So just because I was this close to putting him in the list, Teresa, should we be worried about Big Grover and Ward retiring? Grover, no. Defensive tackles in the NFL, especially when they're big run blockers, these SOBs can play at a high level till they're like 36, 37. I mean, remember Fletcher Cox from the Eagles? He just kept on playing at a high level. These guys keep on going. Grover probably still has another good 2 or 3 years of football left in him. Ward, that's a wild card. I mean, I think me and Sean addressed this, and I'll get your thoughts on this real quick, Sean, with Ward. I think he needs to call it a career. Do I want to see him not play for the Colts? No, I want to see him in a Colts uniform. 3 concussions in a single season, though. That builds it. Like I strained his shoulder. No, these concussions, they just keep building, and Colts fans know this all too well after seeing how many times Austin Collie was out there getting scrambled on the field. I would like for Ward to retire for his future, his family. But Sean, what do you think? I personally think Ward will retire. His father told him to retire. I just think that the odds of him returning aren't really that great. But honestly, it's not because he's not good or because he's not a good teammate. It's because, one more concussion, I mean, that can mean permanent brain damage.
Yeah, it's gotten to a point where if another concussion happens next season, who's gonna be the one to tell him that it's time to hang him up? As much as obviously he was a really good player this season, and he proved that when he's on the field, the defense is better. At the same time, if you get another concussion, you might not ever be on a field again. And really, I think it's just the personal health is always a valid reason to retire, in my opinion. If you feel that you're putting yourself at risk of serious injury, I think you just hang him up. You've made your millions. You've made your point that you are an excellent football player. I think that it's time for him to focus on maybe his family and, sit down and watch football from the couch.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But Ward did not retire when his dad told him to.
No.
Okay. And so that's encouraging, but it's also a risk. Me and Sean no one in the professional sports journalism industry is going to say this is what Ward should or shouldn't do. I just think, in my humble opinion, and I think Sean agrees, I mean, it's like, if I was him, I'd be like, I'm good. I'm good. I've made a lot of money. I can retire happily. No need to risk anything. But going back to Richardson here, Patrick actually makes a fantastic point. Where was that at? Yeah. So if you cut Anthony Richardson, you take a $10.8 million cap hit. There is no savings. None. Zero. He's not getting cut at all. On the flip side, to kind of go based off of what I asked you, my overall synopsis of Richardson is he took the NFL by storm. His best season was his rookie year. All right. Only played 4 games. He still almost completed 60% of his passes. Looked great. I mean, he looked like an unstoppable force at times. But the NFL catches up to you quick. And there's nothing in the NFL that catches up to you faster than a defense and defenses. And when you have this is why they call it a sophomore slump, especially at quarterback, is because when you come into the NFL and you hit the ground running as a rookie, look at Mac Jones. Look at C.J. Stroud. Those are 2 good examples. Mac Jones won Rookie of the Year. C.J. Stroud won Rookie of the Year. You come in and you take the NFL by storm, defenses are like, okay, this is something we weren't expecting. You give them an additional season to look at your freaking tape, they catch up to you quick. That's why the greats just keep on doing it. Richardson showed his inexperience, his wild accuracy, his issues with turnovers, his issues with, honestly, discipline. I mean, initially, Sean, when I saw him tap out of that game against the Texans, just because I was so hard to get Richardson out of college, I was so on board with it. I was like, give the guy a break. He's just inexperienced. And then I thought, they teach you not to do that in Pee Wee football. There's just so many negatives with Richardson. It sucks. But what do you think of this comment? I think when he inevitably gets traded for a freaking 5th rounder, I think this will go down as not only one of the biggest busts in history, but when you talk about, well, he's not a bust yet, not until he goes to another team and looks this bad. But right now he is a bust, and I don't know if I've seen a team take a bigger swing on a prospect and have it just become such a dumpster fire in my recent memory.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I do think that the Colts have completely let him down when it comes to quarterback development. It just hasn't been there. Nothing really got developed. Yep.
Darth Vader's exactly on fire. Him and Patrick are cooking.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's really, we're seeing it league-wide, a quarterback development problem. Teams are struggling to develop the quarterbacks that they draft and turn them into star quarterbacks.
They are.
Like, there's a few guys that come out of nowhere kind of every year that just make their impact. Richardson, he made a impact at a point. I think, though, the Colts have let him down, and I think at the end of the day, you can't classify him as a bust just yet. But if he has another 2 teams where he doesn't do anything, then it's fair. And again, 4th overall pick, That's what was used. And at the time, everybody was thinking that he could compete with guys like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. At the end of the day, we've seen more good throws from CJ Stroud and Brett. We've just seen more football from them. They've been on the field. Bryce Young came back from his own benching, and he looked pretty good in the second half of the season in Carolina. I have to say, Bryce Young, if they get an offensive line, he'll look really good. Anthony Richardson came in. He had his offensive line already. The Colts already had one ready for him. And the fact that he wasn't able to succeed with the offensive tools that the Colts had, I think it's not exactly a good sign, because he had Jonathan Taylor too, top 5 running back, top 5 offensive line, okay receivers, and he just had no success. So I don't know. I think if a trade doesn't happen, it would suck for him to not get another year on the field. So he needs playing time soon, and otherwise he is going to be one of the biggest busts of all time.
Yeah, and I wish I could find the comment. I don't think I can. There's a couple comments, and if we run just a little bit over, that's okay, because this is huge. This is a big subject. Where was that at? Okay, yeah. So, all right. We'll start with this. Alval 2020. Richardson would not be QB2. He wouldn't be QB2. You'd think he would, but he wouldn't. And generally in the NFL, one game doesn't define you. Okay. But when you're a 6th round pick, expected to maybe make the roster, maybe be a practice squad QB, you go out there in week 18 in a meaningless game at NRG Stadium against the Grim Reaper Houston Texans defense, and you almost beat them like Riley Leonard did, you're back up. You've earned the right. He'll still have to compete. Riley Leonard's the backup. Daniel Jones has already been committed that they're trying to work out a multi-year deal. The Colts are not paying attention to AR right now. They are not. They're not saying it, but they're done. They're done with it. They've tried. And something else is that the Colts did fail him. They did. But we gotta talk about the fact that AR failed the Colts and he failed himself. I think Cam Turner is not a good QB coach. I think he sucks. I think that you can find better talent at QB coach, and you can send Cam Turner to ruin someone else's quarterback. The whole reason he got hired is because he worked with Kyler Murray and Cam Newton, and he just so happened Anthony Richardson was kind of a blend of all that, right? But I mean, Richardson was undisciplined, tapping out of that game, following it up with, I was tired, I ain't gonna lie. That just told the whole league, like, what in the hell are you doing in this league? So his discipline, his lack of awareness, the fact that I think that he could just go out, he probably just thought he could go out there and win with sheer athleticism. That's not going to work. And so I think that when he does find his next team, they're going to try to basically sit him down and say, look, man, you can't do what you did with the Colts with us. We're going to try to develop you. But yeah, you can't accept a 5th-year option on a QB3. And by the way, Sean, if they were to say yes to Anthony Richardson's 5th-year option and put him as a backup, $23.5 million. And that's low end. That's low end for a 5th-year deal for a quarterback. It ain't happening. And this is the last thing. He took the combine by storm, Drake. I will never forget. I don't know. I'm sure you watched that combine too. There were 2 quarterbacks. Me and Andrew were in the stands watching this game, evaluating things with the other writers and journalists. 2 guys cared. That's all that people cared about. Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. When I saw Anthony Richardson throwing the football and run that 40-yard dash, I almost crapped myself. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this guy's 250 pounds, 6'5", and just ran a 4.4 second 40-yard dash. I'm like, I was like, please. I threw my roses at the guy. I almost got him a bouquet. I was like, draft Anthony Richardson. You're stupid if you don't do it. His combine performance blew his draft stock out of the water, and there were still people that said you should not draft this guy. He needs to stay in college, which he should have. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that me and Sean are both in agreement. I think that unfortunately, this experiment is over unless he gives them the utmost confidence to say no to Daniel Jones. Even if he were to be better than Riley Leonard, you're not going to pay $23.5 million to keep a backup to develop him unless you're sure he's going to take that next step. So far, Richardson just hasn't. He's not been able to do it. But anyway, guys, that is our show. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Of course, we had Truett Trussler with the lone super chat. Thank you so much. But Darth, thank you for your comments. Patrick, thank you for your comments. We had David Burrows make an appearance. Teresa Willis Johnson. If I'm forgetting anybody, please forgive me. Again, petroleum over here. But no, I'm just joking. At the end of the day, these questions have to be answered, and there's so many more, but these questions have to be answered. At the end of the day, Sean, this Colts team, they have a lot to prove. Unfortunately, they were number one in the NFL. They were the front runner for a Super Bowl championship. And it all fell apart, and they became the laughingstock. So we'll wrap up with you answering this question. How confident are you, without the draft being thought about, without free agency being thought about, or who they are going to re-sign or keep? What's your confidence level that this team can hit the expectations, which, by the way, they aren't laid out, but I would assume it's win the division, make the playoffs, and not just do those two things. Oh, no. Win a playoff game. How confident are you, if those are the three expectations, that this team can do that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, for Ballard and Seiden to keep their jobs, they have to win a playoff game, I think, at the end of the day.
I think so.
If you win the division, then lose the playoffs, it means nothing. So, if you asked me this last season, I would have said like a 1, and then the first half of the season, that instantly upped my confidence level in this team. Second half, it went down, but not a lot. I think it was a lot of injuries, but at the same time, you can't avoid those. So if I had to say, I think there's a decent chance. If I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say there's a 7 or an 8. I think this team can win a playoff game. I think they should. They have the talent. They've had the talent for a while now. And really, I think a couple more pieces, you win the division. It could be a really competitive division next year. Jaguars and Texans should both be pretty good once again. Titans will probably get better. So it's gonna be tough. I think if you get 12 to 13 wins, that'll win you the division. So my confidence level, schedule's looking okay. I'd say there's a 70% chance that happens. That might be ambitious.
Well, I mean, it's not even necessarily about that. Just to put a bow on this, the Jaguars and the Texans showed that the Jaguars showed they can have a lethal offense. The Texans showed that Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, nasty duo. Those are two perennial playoff teams as far as their skill levels and coaching. Liam Cohen did great. D'Amico Ryans has shown he is a very solidified coach. My Cam Ward, phenomenal quarterback. I think he is going to be a star in the league. Now you get Robert Saleh, okay, and you're going to start to get a cultivation of a real culture around that kid. The Colts are going to have their work cut out for them. I think the potential is there to win the division. I think the potential is there to make the playoffs. I think the potential is there to win a playoff game. My biggest X factor is Daniel Jones's health. I think that is going to be – he's not even been able to finish a whole season. But we'll see. But, guys, that is our show. Thank you so very much. We ran over a little bit, but that's because all you wonderful people just keep us on here, don't you? Like the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow Indianapolis Colts on SI on X, at Colts on _SI. What a brutal tag. Subscribe to Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube and click the bell to turn on all of the notifications. If you want to listen to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, I've got us hooked up for you guys on Apple, on Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts. so much more. Guys, we will be back here on Monday to continue to cover the Indianapolis Colts. It's a little bit of a dead point in the season, so we might be like scraping for some subjects. This happens every year with every channel, with everyone covering the NFL, but we're going to keep this going. But be on the lookout for things to happen, because the Colts don't want Alec Pierce to go to market. They don't want Daniel Jones to go to market. Don't be surprised if you see a franchise tag on Alec Pierce like they did Pittman, but we're going to have all that for you right here. But on behalf of myself and the one and only Sean Ackerman, thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful week, and we'll be seeing you again on Monday. Take care.